There is a plant on this planet that has been used medicinally on every inhabited continent, survived every attempt to eradicate it from every lawn in America, and contains more beta-carotene per cup than raw carrots. It has been prescribed by Chinese physicians for at least 1,000 years, brewed into beer long before hops were ever added to the recipe. And right now, right this second, it is probably growing within 50 feet of where you are sitting. And you have spent years trying to kill it. This is Taraxacum officinale, the common dandelion. The plant your HOA considers an eyesore is, compound for compound, one of the most nutritionally dense organisms you can put in your body. But before you start grazing your front yard, there are things you need to know, because this unassuming weed interacts with at least 6 categories of prescription medications, and getting the dose wrong is not a metaphor. Today, we are going to crack open the chemistry of the dandelion, trace its journey from ancient Persian medicine to Appalachian front porches, and figure out exactly how to use it and when to leave it alone. Have you ever wondered why dandelions grow back, no matter what you do to them? You mow them, poison them, rip them out by the root, and 2 weeks later, there they are again. That persistence is not random. It is biochemical. And the same molecular stubbornness that makes the dandelion unkillable is what makes it interesting to your body. Let us start with what is actually inside this plant, because the list reads like a biochemistry textbook that someone accidentally dropped into a salad bar. Dandelion greens contain vitamins A, C, K, and several B-complex vitamins. 1 cup of raw dandelion greens delivers about 535% of your daily recommended intake of vitamin K and 112% of vitamin A. That is not a typo, a single cup. But the real story is not the vitamins. It is the specialized compounds. Dandelion contains Taraxasterol, a triterpenoid that has been studied at the University of Guelph and elsewhere for its anti-inflammatory effects at the cellular level. Think of Taraxasterol as a molecular dimmer switch. It does not shut off your inflammatory response entirely, which would be catastrophic, but it dials it down, reducing the expression of proteins like interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. These are the same inflammatory markers your doctor checks when your C-reactive protein is elevated. Then there is Taraxacin, the bitter compound in the milky latex that bleeds from the stem when you snap it. That bitterness is not accidental. It is a chemical signal. Bitter compounds stimulate bile production in your liver and gallbladder, which is why traditional herbalists have classified dandelion as a cholagogue, a substance that promotes bile flow. Your liver, in this analogy, is like a factory with a loading dock. Taraxacin is the floor manager who keeps the trucks moving. When bile flows properly, fat-soluble waste products get packaged and shipped out more efficiently. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology demonstrated that dandelion root extract increased bile secretion in animal models by up to 40%. That is significant. Not miraculous, significant. And that distinction matters in this series. But what really caught my attention is what happens below ground. Because the root, which most people throw away, is where the dandelion stores its most potent compound, inulin. If the leaves are the dandelion's public-facing resume, the root is its classified file. And the headline of that file is inulin, a polysaccharide that your body cannot digest. That sounds like a problem. It is actually a feature. Inulin is a prebiotic fiber. It passes through your stomach and small intestine completely intact, arriving in your colon like a care package for your gut bacteria. Specifically, it feeds Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus, the two genera that every probiotic supplement on the market is trying to deliver to your gut in capsule form. The dandelion root does it differently. Instead of dropping in outside reinforcements, it feeds the troops you already have. Think of it as the difference between hiring mercenaries and training your own army. A 2019 meta-analysis in the British Journal of Nutrition, reviewing 11 randomized controlled trials, confirmed that inulin-type fructans significantly increase bifidobacterium populations in the human gut. The effective dose in most studies was between 5 and 10 grams per day. A medium-sized dandelion root contains roughly 2 to 3 grams of inulin, depending on the season. The concentration peaks in autumn when the plant is banking energy underground for winter. Nature's timing, not yours. But inulin is only part of the root's molecular inventory. Dandelion root also contains sesquiterpene lactones, specifically eudesmonolides and germicranolides. These are the compounds that give dandelion root tea its characteristic deep bitterness, and they are under active investigation for their effects on abnormal cell proliferation. A 2012 study at the University of Windsor, led by Dr. Sairam Pandey, found that dandelion root extract induced apoptosis, programmed cell death, in human melanoma cells in vitro, without significant toxicity to non-cancerous cells. The study was published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Now, I want to be very careful here. In vitro is not in vivo. A petri dish is not a person. These are preliminary findings that suggest a mechanism worth studying, not a cure you should self-prescribe. But the mechanism itself, selective cytotoxicity through the mitochondrial pathway, is genuinely interesting and has led to a Phase 1 clinical trial in Canada. The dandelion root is not a magic bullet. It is a lead compound. And in pharmacology, lead compounds are where drugs begin. So the root is a prebiotic, a bile stimulant, and a source of cytotoxic sesquiterpenes. Not bad for something the lawn care industry calls a pest. But none of this is new knowledge. Not really. Because people figured this out centuries before mass spectrometers existed. The dandelion is not native to North America. Let that sink in for a moment. Every dandelion you have ever seen in an American lawn is an immigrant, brought deliberately by European colonists who considered it too valuable to leave behind. They packed dandelion seeds alongside wheat and barley. It was not an accident. It was a priority. The earliest recorded medicinal use of dandelion traces back to Persian physicians in the 10th and 11th centuries, who called it Taraxacum, the origin of the genus name Taraxacum. The great Persian polymath Avicenna listed it in his Canon of Medicine as a treatment for liver and spleen disorders. In traditional Chinese medicine, dandelion, known as pugong ying, has been used for at least 1,000 years, primarily to clear heat, reduce toxicity, and promote urination. The Chinese pharmacopoeia still lists it today. But the story I find most compelling is the American one. When settlers arrived in Appalachia, they brought dandelion with them, and the tradition took root as deeply as the plant itself. Appalachian folk medicine used dandelion in 3 primary ways. The greens as a spring tonic to purify the blood after a long winter of preserved meat and root vegetables. The root as a liver remedy, boiled into a dark, bitter tea. And the flowers steeped into dandelion wine, which was both celebratory and medicinal. The spring tonic tradition is particularly interesting from a modern perspective. After months of eating salt-preserved pork, dried beans, and little fresh produce, Appalachian families would have been genuinely deficient in vitamins A, C, and K. The dandelion greens that appeared with the first warm days provided exactly what was missing. They did not know about beta-carotene or ascorbic acid, but they knew that eating those bitter greens in March made them feel better by April. The body knew what the textbooks had not yet written. Native American traditions are equally instructive. The Ojibwe used dandelion root tea for heartburn, a use that aligns with modern understanding of cholagogues and bile flow. The Iroquois made a tea from the whole plant as a general tonic. The Cherokee used the root and leaves for digestive complaints. None of these cultures had a gas chromatograph. All of them arrived at the same conclusion. Here is the pattern I keep seeing in this series. Folk wisdom identifies the right plant for the right problem, often across unconnected cultures, often separated by thousands of miles and centuries of time. Science catches up and says, yes, here's the compound, here's the mechanism. The ancestors were right. But, and this is the part the wellness industry always leaves out, they were also working without safety data. Which brings us to the part of this episode that might save you a trip to the emergency room. I said at the top that dandelion interacts with at least 6 categories of prescription medications. Let me be specific, because vague warnings are useless to people who have a pill organizer on their kitchen counter. Diuretics and blood pressure medications. Dandelion is a potent natural diuretic. The French common name for it is pissenlit, which literally translates to wet the bed. This is not folk exaggeration. A 2009 pilot study at Thai Sophia Institute, published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, confirmed a significant increase in urinary frequency within 5 hours of dandelion leaf extract consumption. If you are already on hydrochlorothiazide, furosemide, or any potassium-sparing diuretic like spironolactone, adding dandelion can amplify fluid loss and dangerously alter your electrolyte balance. Potassium levels, in particular, can shift in unpredictable ways, and abnormal potassium is not a mild inconvenience. It is a cardiac risk. Blood thinners. Dandelion greens are extraordinarily high in vitamin K, the vitamin that promotes blood clotting. If you are on Warfarin, this is not a minor detail. Warfarin works by antagonizing vitamin K. Eating a large serving of dandelion greens can effectively counteract your anticoagulant, putting you at increased risk for clotting events. This is not theoretical. This is the same reason your cardiologist told you to be consistent with green leafy vegetable intake. 1 cup of dandelion greens delivers over 500% of your daily vitamin K. That is enough to shift your INR significantly. Diabetes medications. Dandelion has demonstrated hypoglycemic effects in several studies. It can lower blood sugar. If you are on metformin, glipizide, or insulin, adding dandelion tea or extract without monitoring can push your blood glucose too low. Hypoglycemia is not a gentle correction. It is confusion, shakiness, and, in severe cases, loss of consciousness. If you want to explore dandelion for blood sugar management, do it with a glucometer in your hand and your doctor in the loop. Lithium. Because dandelion alters fluid balance and renal clearance, it can affect lithium levels in the blood. Lithium has an extremely narrow therapeutic window. The difference between an effective dose and a toxic dose is small. Changing your fluid balance with a natural diuretic can concentrate lithium to dangerous levels. If you are on lithium for bipolar disorder, Dandelion is not a casual addition to your routine. Antibiotics, quinolones. There is some evidence that Dandelion can reduce the absorption of Ciprofloxacin and similar fluoroquinolone antibiotics. The mechanism is not fully established, but the mineral content of Dandelion, particularly calcium and iron, may chelate the antibiotic in the gut, reducing its bioavailability. If you are fighting an infection and your doctor prescribes Cipro, this is not the week to start drinking dandelion root tea. Liver metabolized drugs. Dandelion affects cytochrome P450 enzymes, the same liver enzyme system that metabolizes a staggering number of medications, including atorvastatin, sertraline, omeprazole, and many others. Altering this system can change how quickly or slowly your body processes these drugs, effectively raising or lowering their concentration in your blood without changing the dose. This is the drug interaction equivalent of someone adjusting your thermostat without telling you. The temperature changes, but you did not touch the dial. One more thing. If you are allergic to ragweed, chrysanthemums, marigolds, or daisies, you may be allergic to dandelion. They are all in the Asteraceae family. The cross-reactivity is real. A mild ragweed allergy can become a serious reaction when you drink concentrated dandelion root tea. Start small. Watch your body. Respect the chemistry. If you have made it this far, and you are not on any of the medications I just listed, or you have talked to your doctor and gotten clearance, here is how to work with dandelion properly. American measurements, practical methods, real temperatures. Fresh greens, the simplest method. Harvest young dandelion leaves in early spring, before the plant flowers. Once it flowers, the leaves become intensely bitter. Choose plants from areas that have not been sprayed with herbicides or pesticides, not your chemically treated lawn. Wash thoroughly. Add raw to salads, or sauté with olive oil and garlic for 2 to 3 minutes over medium heat, around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, in a pan. 1 to 2 cups of fresh greens per day is a reasonable amount. The taste is similar to arugula, peppery, slightly bitter, green. Dandelion root tea. Dig roots in autumn, when inulin content is highest. Wash, chop into 1/4-inch pieces, and dry in a dehydrator or oven at 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 4 hours until brittle. To brew, use 1 tablespoon of dried root per 8 ounces of water. Bring to a boil, then reduce to a simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. This is a decoction, not an infusion. You are extracting compounds from dense root tissue, not delicate leaves. Strain and drink. 1 to 3 cups per day is the traditional dose. The taste is earthy, nutty, mildly bitter. Some people find it a reasonable substitute for coffee, especially when the root is roasted. Roasted dandelion root, coffee substitute. After drying, spread root pieces on a baking sheet and roast at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 to 30 minutes, stirring every 10 minutes until dark brown and fragrant. Grind in a coffee grinder. Brew like coffee. 2 tablespoons per 12 ounces of water in a French press or pour over. It does not taste like coffee. It tastes like dandelion root. But it has a depth and warmth that some people genuinely prefer, and it contains 0 caffeine. Dandelion leaf tea, diuretic use. For a milder preparation targeting the diuretic effect, use dried leaves instead of root. 1 tablespoon of dried dandelion leaves per cup of boiling water, steeped for 10 minutes. This is an infusion, no simmering needed. 2 to 3 cups per day. Monitor your hydration. If you are using this as a diuretic, you need to be replacing fluids and watching for signs of electrolyte imbalance, muscle cramps, dizziness, irregular heartbeat. A diuretic is a tool, not a lifestyle. Tincture. For a concentrated preparation, fill a glass jar halfway with fresh chopped dandelion root. Cover with 80-proof vodka, seal, and store in a cool, dark place for 4 to 6 weeks, shaking daily. Strain through cheesecloth. Standard dose is 30 to 60 drops, about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon, in water, 2 to 3 times per day. This method preserves the full range of compounds and has the longest shelf life, up to 2 years in a dark glass bottle. Here is what I keep coming back to with dandelion. It is the most overlooked plant in America. Literally underfoot, literally everywhere, and literally more nutritious than most of the supplements lining the shelves at your pharmacy. It has earned the respect of Persian physicians, Chinese herbalists, Appalachian grandmothers, and Canadian cancer researchers. It feeds your gut bacteria, supports your liver, and delivers vitamins in concentrations that would make a multivitamin blush. And yet, it can destabilize your blood thinner, it can crash your blood sugar, it can push your lithium into the danger zone, it can undo the work of your antibiotic. The same plant that nourishes you at one dose can threaten you at another, or in the wrong combination. That is the dandelion's paradox. The weed in your lawn is a pharmacy, a salad, and a cautionary tale, all in one root system. Your grandmother, who made dandelion wine in the spring, was practicing nutritional science she could not name. Your doctor, who never mentions it, has reasons you should understand. Both are right. Neither has the whole picture. Everything is poison. Everything is medicine. The dose makes the difference.